How's it going, everybody? So today I got a little project going. I'm gonna put barn doors on here. I'm actually gonna use security screens. So they're gonna go up here. The barn slides over there with the security screens. So they'll go up there. And then one will open that way and one will open that way. Put some stops in and everything. So show you how I'm gonna modify everything and drill through everything. So here we go.
All right, so we're back at it. This time we're going to do some barn doors on this shed. These barn doors are going to be using the barn door kits that actually, this one came from Amazon, and they classify them as inside, but this won't be the first time that I've used inside ones on the outside. Actually, matter of fact, the pool house for this one, at this house, they have the outside or inside barn door slide, and it's working perfect. So I'm just going to unpack a few things here and get going. So we'll speed through this and we'll try to get this done as fast as possible. Just going through and inventorying everything, making sure I got everything, looking at the instructions, kind of seeing what they say. Not that it's going to really fully apply, but it does give me a good direction to start. So unpacking that, and then this is our security doors. Got these from Home Depot. I think they're like 140 bucks a piece or something like that. This one looks pretty good, and then the next one we're gonna see that I start messing with it a little bit, but we'll open it up, get it laying down, and then notice that there's an issue. The window's a little bit messed up, so I'm gonna try to get it to go in. And I will, but it just doesn't look right and it won't slide. Right here we are getting some tape put down. This is so that way I can see my markings as I mark everything out to put the holes in for the slides. So I always use some tape, put it down. My pencil line shows up a lot better with that. There will be some parts where you'll see that I don't use tape. Probably should have, but for this I use tape, and that was the important part. So I'm just double checking my holes, and then the pilot drilling it, and then come back and I'll drill it with a larger drill bit. Now, I didn't have the drill bit size that it was saying I would need, so I will end up having to hog these out just a little bit, but they'll all end up working. We are putting in the bolts now and just checking for size, for fit. There are a couple spacers. I only put spacers on one side, so I need to put spacers on the other side. They obviously still weren't going to be long enough, so here you'll see that I've got the bolts put into the vise, and I'm going to be cutting off some of it. So I think I ended up cutting off right around a half an inch or so, just to, or maybe it was close to an inch. It was an inch, that's what it was. So I'm measuring out the inch, and then I'm just going to go.
Ideally, when you're doing this, you have a nut right at the end inside, so that when you just unscrew it, you would unscrew it and it would fix the threads for you on the way out. But now you just, and that way it would be a sacrificial one, but this will work. So I'm gonna finish these up. We'll speed right through this and keep on moving. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've already done one, so I got 8 total to do. So I got, just keep on moving, I guess. Two more left. Done. All done. Ow, hot. That one's still hot. A few of these are still hot. Well, it's time to go ahead and do the second door. So I just piled them on top of each other, made sure that they were lined up as much as possible. And now that I have the modified bolts, I can put the slides on. So that's what you see me doing here. So I'll do it on this first door, move it over. And then if I remember correctly, I end up forgetting. No, I didn't forget anything on the other door. But I did have to go back and retighten them up. And now I'm just putting in little bump stops. So basically it keeps them from jumping off the track as you open them. Now we're going into measuring out for the slides themselves. And I'm just trying to see what my total distance is. So then I'm just getting them out and kind of looking at them and seeing how this goes, reading some instructions, losing a washer that I spend way too much time on, but I end up having to. So I didn't find it there, so I said the heck with it and kept going. And then I came back, did it some more, and then started putting things together. Realized that I got a magnet and started to look again. Couldn't find it. My wife was helping me. My mom came over and helped too, but I've edited her out. So we're putting it together, and yeah, there's a huge bow in that, but that's just how it's going to be. It's steel, it's fine. So now I'm going through and I'm measuring, following the directions. So I was measuring that off, putting a level line on it, and putting the doors on it. As you can see, the building is no longer level. Actually, I'll go through that here in just a second, live on the TV, instead of doing this voiceover. But just doing a whole lot of measuring, a whole lot of mathing. Alright. So what we got here is, let's see here if we can see it. So this right here is our level line, the bottom one. So it starts there, and then it goes all the way down. So if we back up, we can see that. So this is our level line that compares to this side for level 2. So what I did was, because it's not going to look right, I mean, it would be way down on one side. So I measured this distance here, and I drew a straight line here to here, and that's my plan. So now I got to do bolt holes here. Well, actually right here, 3/4 of an inch down from that line, and then we'll be good to go. So the proper decision was made. We just went with the line from the siding, and I measured down for the proper distance, and that's what we were going to go with, because that's what your eye was going to look at anyways. But I need to make sure that I talked to the property owner to make sure that they were on board with that, and they weren't wondering why things were sliding a little bit different and the doors were moving on their own in certain spots. They won't move on their own necessarily, but it depending on where they're at on that slide depends on if they move or not. So I'm going through and just working my way out, putting up those. I was able to get one into the far one so my wife could let go, and then that's what I'm trying to get to my left one so that way I can get into that one. And I'm just measuring them all to that siding, so that way they're all the same measurement across within an eighth or so. I think is what it ended up being, just because there's a little play in those holes. So that's what you're seeing me do here. I'm doing a little pre-drill and then screwing and driving in the lag bolts that happen. But I always do pre-drill, especially with lag bolts. It stopped when I moved the camera to get over, finish up on this side, so I didn't get any of the doors going up. Currently right here, what I'm doing is modifying the frame to make it look a little less out of whack.
I'm only doing this until I could get back over with some other wood and actually fix the frame-ish. At least build the frame out a little bit so that way it doesn't look like there's a little gap. Because there did end up being about, total probably about a 2-inch gap all the way. Just because that door opening is a lot wider, a little bit wider than the doors themselves. The doors I bought were 36-inch, which is the biggest they had, and which means they're like 35 1/8 or something like that when you take just the doors and not using any of the framing. So using the framing is just to make it look nice. She had a little get together, so I wanted to make sure it looked somewhat finished before I could get back over and recase it like I had stated before. So that's what we got going on right here. Alright, so you're going to kind of see a little movie magic. It's going to come off, it's going to go back on. So now there's a little skirt at the bottom of that to adjust for the gap, so that way I can try to keep those gaps somewhat the same. They came with it, might as well use it and make it look somewhat the same. So now I'm just tightening them on at this point in time. As you see, this is a few days later, so I finally was able to run and get over between work and chores around my house and getting stuff around the homestead going on. So I came back, I went and picked up some lumber, which good news is lumber's kind of coming back, so back into normal-ish price eventually. So it's working its way there. So I'm pulling apart the casing, realized that the casing is actually 2x4s, so that's why I hammered it back together. So now I'm just going to cut these to length. I went back and double checked, and I'm using my little square to make sure I try to keep as straight of a line as possible. Doing a little bit of math for my relief cut that I'm going to do. Needed a 3.75. It only goes to 3.5. So what I ended up doing was I cut my ripped down the middle like you see now, and then I ended up cutting a 1/4 inch off of the front side, which gave me my 3.75. So I'm pretty much fighting the heat on a lot of my videos. So things were turning off, GoPro was turning off, phone was turning off, just cameras turning off left and right. So now I have it in place. I put a little notch to work around the door frame, the casing there. I'm going to nail it, so you'll see here in a minute on how I'm holding that up, but I just used one of my pry bars and I put it underneath and used my foot as the lever. So that's how I'm holding it to the top. And I just work my way down, straightening it by hand as much as possible with the wood. It's not perfect because, well, it's wood, but see, there you go. There's my little tool that I was using. So have that going. We're just going to speed right through this, the same thing as the other side. Right there I'm marking for the concrete because where it's settled, the concrete is in the way now. So I have to go pull that off, and then I'll go and notch that out so that way it fits in the concrete. Now it's fit, and we're back in. Here's just a quick little view of what happened. That's what we got going on. It's all in there. We're good to go. Door's shut, and then we'll see kind of like a casing view of it. See how off it is. It did slide open on its own there, but so it is off. I think we're pretty much there, and then get closer and it's gone. So what I got going on now is I'm putting on handles. I'm measuring down. I went 32 inches down, and then I found center and I got it. I just eyeballed it. I probably should have used tape here. It would have made it a little easier for me to see. But the screws that came with it ended up being a little bit long. So I started them with the screws, and then I went and got a lineman's pliers with the cutter on it, and I was cutting them all down after. So I start them, pull them out, cut them, put them back in. So that way I didn't need the tips anymore, and all I needed was to be able to thread it in. So that's what I was doing. You'll see it right there every once in a while, holding it in my arm. that's what I did there, just to keep it from poking through the other side. So I'm going to do the same thing with the latch, measuring it out. The latch, I probably should have went and grabbed the wife and asked her to help me for a minute, but she's inside resting. She's fighting a concussion that she's had, and it's really, really not good. So concussions are no joke anymore. I remember, just make sure he doesn't fall asleep for a while, and check on him and blah blah blah. That's what it used to be when I was a kid. No more. My son's had, I think, 5 majors and 7 or 8 altogether. So now what I'm gonna do is fill in little holes from all the old bracketry that used to be on there. What I did was I took some glue, and then I took the wood shavings from cutting up that 2x6s, mixed them together so that way when it gets sanded down, it looks more like wood. It's just nice. So I didn't get any pictures of the final any video of the final product, but here's some pictures of it, pre-painted, and then here's one that's been painted. So I just want to say thank you for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, let me know, and I will answer you back.